Okay, we are live. Happy Friday. It's crazy. This is literally my last Friday live stream because I'm going on maternity leave next week, and Andy will be running the show. So people, you'll
All
be in great.
alone.
Don't worry. The Lone Ranger. But I've had fun co-hosting, so obviously I'll be back. I'm not disappearing forever. And I want to introduce our two amazing guests today. Georgina Miller and Gili Wolf are from the Alchemy Collective. And Alchemy is a strategy first brand and marketing collective designed to help you rediscover the soul of your brand, activate those indelible truths, and connect in all the ways that matter. On the team, Georgina specializes in brand and marketing strategy, while Gili brings the brand to life through art direction and graphic design. And you guys are only one part of the dream team, right?
Yeah,
Got two more.
we're
Yeah.
half.
Yeah.
Half the dream team. So, fill us in. How did you kind of bring this group of amazing humans together? I know it's something that a lot of people dream of doing, of having this really cool team, but it's hard to execute from what I've gathered.
Georgina,
Should I
do you
start
want
off with the story?
Sure.
And then you can. So I think it came about because at the beginning of the pandemic, we were four solopreneurs, four marketing professionals working on our own in our own homes, and we, through a various networking groups and things, we connected, and so we just started quite organically chatting and giving each other a little bit of support because we were all feeling quite isolated, as most people were at that time. And then as we discovered more and more what each other did and how we worked and kind of liked each other, we explored the idea of creating something and creating a bit of a collective approach. And that's why kind of we're called the Alchemy Collective, because what we were keen to do was to have something that benefited everybody on the terms that they wanted. We've all had experience kind of with a very hierarchical agency setup, and ultimately agencies work for the people at the top and not for the people at the bottom. And we kind of wanted something that was a lot flatter. Gili, anything I've missed?
No, I mean, that's kind of the story in a nutshell. I mean, I guess I could chime in from my perspective on it, which is, I had been working independently for about at that point, 13 years, I guess. And as a designer, I always felt extremely frustrated with design kind of not being a complete solution to branding issues. And that, clients would come to me, and Andy, I'm sure you can relate to this, but like clients would come to me, I need a logo, I need a thing, and I knew that wasn't a complete answer, but didn't have the team to help flesh out what the complete answer was. So I think as we came together, that became we have a much more comprehensive approach than I ever could have done on my own as a designer. And, I can't speak to everybody else's expertise on the team and how they feel about that. But for me, it became this, hey, I can now actually design something that serves a purpose versus just, here's a thing, go stick it on your website,
So since we met, I've been really curious about your guys' system. We've had a couple conversations about this, but as Gili mentioned, I'm a designer too. I work in the beverage industry, and my bread and butter and love is designing beer cans and wine labels. And over the years, I've scaled up my agency from one person to like 10 to 2 to 12, but it's always been in service of exactly what Gili said. We take on their social media, we take on their sales promotion stuff, we take on publicity so we can get to their package design. Part of that is because people don't change their packaging all that often, but it's always been you need to be our full circle solution, or you need to do what we need right now to earn the thing that you want to do. And so knowing so many marketing people, at this level of experience, I've met, and Abby and I together know several people who have tried to do the collective kind of thing. People don't want to work for an agency, but they don't want to start and build and take on the liability of an agency. So teaming with other independent experts is a really great idea. But the question comes, how do you do account management? How do you do billing? Do clients always know compartmentalized how much they're paying for strategy versus copywriting versus design, when it's a little easier to just put in one ribbon? So how do you guys decide, like, who brings in the business? Are you always pitching as a full team? Is it sometimes 2 of the 4? How does it work with a collective of individual people who are also one thing?
That's like 7 questions in one there.
We get asked.
Tell us the secret.
Well, the secret is that, like everybody else, we're making it up as we go along, and we're trying to work out that secret sauce. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So it's kind of we're trying out different approaches, but I think the foundation of how we work is that we're a set of individual businesses. So the Alchemy Collective is not actually a legal entity. It's a brand under which we present and pitch and do work, but the contracts that clients sign are with an individual, a business. So then, and after that, in terms of the logistics, the rest of the team work as 1099 subcontractors. So from the client's perspective, they get one invoice to sign, one set of contracts, and then we kind of do the admin behind the scene ourselves. And we are transparent with the client about that. And to date, it hasn't caused any issues. It's just, so we are Alchemy, but you will be getting contracts from this business and getting invoices from this business. So that's been quite straightforward. When it comes to splitting out costs and kind of saying this is what this costs versus what this costs, it depends on what the client needs and how many of the resources the client needs. So the advantage of operating as a lean collective is that we don't have the same overheads as an agency, and we don't have an office, and we don't have all that kind of stuff. So we will pitch as Alchemy, as kind of the collective, and then we'll see what the client actually needs. So if they only need 2 of us, then only 2 of us will be working on this, and the price and the scope of work will be determined by what they need. So we're open that they can have this kind of sort of turnkey strategy solution, but if they don't need all of that, for example, if they've done a lot of their brand strategy up front and they have all that in place, but what they need is a art direction and marketing strategy and content strategy, then that's what we'll give them. Did I answer all the bits of your question?
Yeah. So, for example, Gili's meeting with somebody that she comes into contact with. Is she saying, I'm Gili, my business is called Big Bad Industries, I'm a designer, and I have copywriting and strategy that go with me, and then she's billing them and subcontracting you guys? I get the, logistical, legal part of it, but is Gili saying, I'm part of Alchemy Collective, or she's saying, I'm Gili and I have team members should we need them?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. So it really kind of depends on the nature of the conversation. And so, I'll kind of feel into what are they asking me, really? And what do I think they actually need? Because I think that's a big part of, clients often don't know what they need. They think they know what they need, or they know what they want, but they may not know that there's all these other pieces that actually would help flesh out what they need. So often, I can kind of feel into, does this feel like an Alchemy project, or does this feel like a Big Bad Industries project? And I will be transparent with them and say both things exist. Like, you can work with just me, and that's what this looks like, or you can work with us as Alchemy, and that's what this looks like. So,
love it.
Yeah, just kind of give them the full range of options.
Well, and I love too, Georgina, what you were saying earlier of how you guys have also become friends working together. It's so much better when you get to work with someone who you actually like versus maybe when you were working at a larger agency and you got to put up with the hierarchy and everything like that. And something that with Founderist, we always try to do. Andy and I definitely have fun together. We drink way too many Diet Cokes and come up with amazing ideas because we're just that cool. But, was it interesting kind of putting this group together too with different personalities and all of that? Like, did you guys think about, okay, what are our values and how are these gonna come together?
We really did. So we went through the process that we take clients through from a brand strategy perspective, and we did that for ourselves very intentionally.
Very cool.
And Vanessa, who's not here today, but she's our brand strategy specialist, she took us through that whole process, and that was really fun and an opportunity to explore kind of what those values were and how we differed as individuals and how we could bring that together under something cohesive that would be good to present, but that also made sense for us all as individuals.
I think
So
that's probably
in that, oh, sorry, Gili, I have a question that'll tee you up.
yeah.
So in terms of the synergies of partnerships, it's hard enough to find one person that you have that infinite trust and communication with. I've had tons of business partners and investors and all kinds of things. And, you know, Abby and I have the perfect yin and yang of extroverted and introverted personalities and sales skills and back office skills. And, you know, we have a very, very good synergistic relationship. But I can imagine if we were trying to add 2 more people to this, it might be difficult to have 3 partners. So what are kind of the hallmarks of the amount of communication that you guys have to trust the whole group and to maintain a fortuitous but also loving relationship between 4 people?
Yeah, I have often said I feel like I got lucky, like that in all the years that I was working on my own. Like it was so challenging to ever find, like you said, even one person to team up with where we were on the same page, where there was a matched level of commitment, a matched level of skill set. And when the 4 of us met, I honestly felt like it was just sort of this miraculous, like, I can't believe I just met 3 people who are this awesome, who I trust and who I know do good work and I know who are committed. Like, it is actually quite lucky, I think, in a lot of ways. I will say, I feel like we're all pretty emotionally intelligent people, and I think that's partly why it works. That we've been good about communicating. I think from the beginning, because of the way we met, we didn't meet and set out to do this. It just sort of organically evolved. So I think we had the opportunity to kind of get to know each other and get a sense for one another and build that trust just as people. And then it kind of was like, hey, this actually feels good. Like, let's see what this looks like if we work together. And it's not that we haven't had issues or some bumps in the road, but I think that where we've been fortunate is I think we're all pretty good at communicating and having the hard conversations. And there have been some hard conversations, but I think everybody's equally committed to wanting everybody else to be happy and to getting what they want out of this. So I think that's where I think that's why it has been working.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Gili said. I think it's kind of good faith, and trust is always built super slowly and can be kind of destroyed in an instant. But it's assuming the best for each other, but also being honest, which can be uncomfortable, and being honest about what you want and what you want from work. And to a certain extent, sort of over communicating, because we don't have an office. We're not seeing each other every day in person. You don't pick up on that vibe of somebody is being slightly weird. Like, you have to be very intentional about how you communicate, because we're doing it through screens 90% of the time, or Slack, or emails, or messages, whatever. But it's different. So I think it's one of the strengths, as Gili says, is that emotional intelligence and maturity of knowing who we are as people. And I think that comes with age, that comes with experience, and kind of being comfortable in that, and so this is I want, being able to hear from somebody else without kind of it damaging our own egos. So it's not always been smooth sailing, because you've got 4 different people with different personalities, different life experiences, different perspectives, different desires of what they want from work. But I think that that communication piece is super important.
So obviously one of the most unique things about you guys is the nature of how you work together and the organization that you're a part of. But since all the people that listen and watch this are mostly business owners, we'd love to hear about the mission and the ethos and what makes Alchemy Collective different. You mentioned that you guys are all mission driven and similar minded. What kind of clients do you guys service, and kind of what is your core mission system?
Should I go from, and you can take up on afterwards? Yeah. So really what we're trying to do originated in the fact that we, as marketing professionals, we're getting frustrated by seeing all sorts of brands doing either random acts of marketing or just kind of being distracted by the latest shiny object and feeling that they had to get on like social media and ending up doing things that were not only pointless and a waste of money, but also harming their brand because they weren't true to that brand and who they were and who they were trying to serve. And so the mission for Alchemy, and we say we want to kind of ignite brave brands that inspire connection. And what that means is that we want to help our clients be brave and say, this is who I am, and this is who I want to talk to. Because increasingly in modern life, there are so many companies out there. We're not trying to shape what people think, but people buy from companies that they resonate with and that they feel are similar to them, or they feel some sort of affinity to. And so the stronger a company can be in who they are, and although authentic is an overused word nowadays, but the more they can be true to themselves, the more will resonate with our audience and the more effective they'll be at kind of selling to them, essentially. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, and we are to a certain extent industry agnostic because we just want to help people who want to do things a bit differently, who don't want to be chasing after the latest thing like everybody else.
I think to add to that, in terms of even our relationship with our clients or the types of clients that we are working with, like as Georgina said, like Georgina actually, I think, coined the phrase within our group, industry agnostic or niche agnostic. But there is, I think the people who work with us, I feel like we're kind of trying to live what it is that we're wanting other brands to do, which is we're working with people who seem to resonate with us, right? And we resonate with them. So it's like there's something about the way they're doing what they're doing that feels like a good fit. And like we feel like we can genuinely help them because we can genuinely build a relationship with them and understand them and get to know what they're doing. And they're not coming from the shiny object place so much. They are coming more from like, this is what I'm actually trying to do in the world. Help me do it. Mm-hmm. Or help me reach the people who need it. And so that's kind of been, I think, our gauge for who feels like a good fit to work with us.
Right. And I could kind of guess maybe that someone who's like, I just want to be the next TikTok influencer would probably not be your guys' jam. But I just want to ask, because obviously TikTok has been in the news a lot this week, do you guys have any thoughts? Like, would that impact a lot of brands you think that you're working with or that you know of if TikTok were to get banned, or how do you see your clients utilizing that platform? In terms of business, because I've seen it for me be really great.
The TikTok one's complicated.
Definitely.
So I think the TikTok style, as in short videos driven by an algorithm based mainly on discovery, that has changed the game for social media in general. I mean, you look at Instagram and you look at Reels on both Instagram and Facebook, and even Spotify is bringing out like a video thing like that. They've changed the game. Now, if TikTok disappears, that format will still stay. And so that the people that use those other platforms and like that kind of content brands can still interact with them. TikTok as kind of the favorite app of younger generations, they'll move somewhere else. Like it's just another app. It has been super, super powerful because people have built up their whole businesses by being TikTok influencers. And as I say, it's short video, YouTube shorts, like short videos everywhere now. But that something else will come along. So those audience won't disappear, they'll just shift. And then unfortunately it's kind of up to brands to scramble a little bit to find out where they've gone and follow them there.
Right. And probably I would think, at least I know all three of you, I think, would advise never put all your eggs in one basket of a social media platform, because what if your account gets reported or blocked or deleted? I mean, and then everything is just tied to social media. That would
I think that's such a good point, Abby. Like ultimately these platforms are helpful, kind of, and this is me with my marketing strategy hat talking, but they're great for top of funnel discovery, and they're good for kind of nurturing. But at the end of the day, you want to move your prospects from that external platform to something that you own. Whether that's interacting with your content through your website, whether that's a newsletter, email nurturing sequence, whatever, you want to move them from something that somebody else controls to your own thing, because as you say, you can't control that other platform, and they change the rules all the time. They change the rules on the algorithm, they change the rules on kind of permissions to how you can do ads, following people, targeting. So it's much safer if you can get them to your own marketing stuff.
I actually think it's interesting too, like Instagram suddenly just did this shift sort of back to where it came from, which is more of the single photo post or the static post. You know, that they were kind of reactive, I think, to TikTok, where it was like, oh my God, everybody wants to do video, especially younger people, and we need to keep them around. And so Reels went crazy, and then they went, oh no, like everything's getting, you know, all the highways getting jammed with Reels. So now they've kind of like scaled back on the Reels, and it's like, oh, hey, guess what? Like static images like will show up again. So I mean, to Georgina's point about the rules constantly changing, and I think especially like in marketing where we're like, like you have to stop and respond to what your client is wanting, and they're like, well, now we need to reach people in this way, which means we have to shift our tactics constantly. I think that we sort of come from this place of what part of all that can be stable, like, and so the brand is the part, you know, like your actual core brand is the part that can be stable, because the way we're marketing these days online is not.
One of the things that I've always been really curious about when it comes to you guys is we live in an economy where a lot of brands don't really understand the value of their brand from an iconography perspective, a storytelling perspective, a broad ethos and tribe perspective. But with things like 99 Designs and Upwork, and let's not talk about AI, you know, Gili and I are in an industry where people, I call them graffiti bros, which isn't fair, but people just think if they have a really dope logo that's enough, and they just roll on. So they can hire some college kid who has bright, colorful portfolio work. They can get a logo in a week or two and then move on. You guys do very deep dive strategy and research driven brand work. And so in order to have the clients that are the size that you need to put the kind of investment into the development work that the four of you are experts in, you kind of have to be going after a pretty high echelon of client, which means you're competing with traditional agencies that have substantial account management and lead generation resources. So what is it like to compete for getting clients, and how do you find them being even a collective, not individuals, but going after that big kind of, you know, corporate or institutional level client?
So you raise an excellent point. Yeah, with the small businesses who don't have the budget and they just need something quick and dirty, and that's fine, because you can start off a business with a logo or Fiverr, but that'll only get you so far. But as you say, kind of for what we do, we are aiming for kind of the bigger fish, and at that point you do start competing with agencies. But agencies can come with a lot of baggage. Of course, they've got they might have all the awards and in certain industries, but we're looking for the people who don't necessarily want to work with an agency, who want something a bit more flexible. They don't necessarily want that kind of big ticket, big price tag agency approach, but they know they need more than just one person. And so we want to be that magic sweet spot in between, and not just kind of be one consultant. We can be as individuals, but offer them a suite of services without having to say, hey, we're a massive Denver agency, and therefore our hourly rate is way out of your league.
I think there's also kind of in the sort of the prospecting. I mean, we do a lot of, I'd just say, kind of face-to-face networking. Like we're pretty high touch in how we find and connect with people. But I have often said, you know, like each of us is a portal in to the whole, right? Which is, and as a designer, I sometimes maybe have the easiest in because people understand something tangible. Like they understand a logo, they understand a website, they understand social media graphics. So if they're speaking to somebody who they know is a designer, they're like, oh, you know what I need? And it's an opportunity for me to say, that's great. Do you have these other things in place? Because without them, these things, like these external things, aren't really delivering anything for you. So it's all that's usually a good entry point into the brand strategy conversation. And I don't know how that is for the rest of the group. With their content, I don't know how many people come along and say, you know what I really need is a strategy. I don't know how often that happens.
Very, very few.
But it's so, but you know, we are all a way in to that conversation. And I think that I know personally, I come at it from how can I make this a bigger conversation, largely because I think it solves a bigger problem than I can solve on my own.
I think in the early 2000s, whatever they call them now, the aughts, there was that huge rebrand of Pepsi where the guy that they hired went from like the curly yin yang one to kind of like the sunrise, and the designer went on this like vision quest to Southeast Asia and spent 6 months staring at sunsets and, you know, making a tiny curve to change one of the world's oldest logos and most recognizable ones. Was like they paid tens of millions of dollars for this, and this dude just curved the circle. And so I think a lot of people are typically in the more holistic approaches to design and branding, but especially in things like strategy and research, are really intimidated that this is going to be super expensive, and I'm not the kind of company that has that sort of R&D for my brand, which again, we all know is a huge mistake. But that was what I was really curious about, because Gili is much easier for window shopping, I assume, or the copywriting that your other partner does, and it's more difficult to be the strategy and logistical side. So it's cool that you guys have the 4 different ins.
Yeah, and from what I tend to get a lot of is, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Should I be on TikTok? Should I be on LinkedIn? Should I be blogging? And at that point,
Bless
the
you.
answer
That's
is,
the worst.
It depends. It depends. What are you offering? Who is your client base? Like, what's your USP? And so we kind of take a couple of steps back to the marketing strategy, and then people realize, actually, if I plan this right, I will know what to do. And then often we take a few more steps back to the brand strategy, because the first question I'm going to ask you with your marketing strategy is, okay, who is your audience? And if you haven't done that work as part of your brand strategy, then that's the first thing you need to do. I just wanted to add a point to your previous question about us standing out from agencies. And I think one of the big things is that we're a collective of senior level peers. And so you are getting senior level counsel at every stage. We do have kind of people helping us out behind the scenes, but our client contact and it's always us. And so what happens a lot of the time in agencies is you have the heavy hitters who do the pitching. You've got the guys with the gray hair and the senior account directors and whatever. And then the people who are actually doing the work are the account executives who've got 3 to 5 years experience out of college, because they are cheaper, because that's how the agency model works economically. It just does. Those people are great, those juniors, but and that's why agencies get super siloed, because you have the people who pitch and then the people who do the work, and then you might have the creative team versus the account team, and as you say, with that project management piece versus, so there's a lot of moving parts to make all this work, but they're separate. With us, kind of it's the one butt to kick thing. Like, it's a much smaller group of people, and you see our faces and you know who we are, and if we're going to turn up and pitch you this idea, we're also going to be kind of making sure the work gets done right. So I think that's something that we're trying to kind of convey the value of.
And I feel like a lot of people will really appreciate that too, because in a sea of lots of expensive big retainer companies, obviously people will pay you for what you guys do. It's nice to have an alternative to that as well, especially for brands that aren't, Pepsi or Nike or anything like that.
And I think, when we did our initial brand work, when we kind of took ourselves through our own process, part of what we analyzed was, well, who are we well positioned to serve? And, because we're small, right? And we don't have endless resources in terms of, human resources. And while we do have an extended team to a degree, it's not super far reaching. Like, we all talk to each other, So I think we also are pretty good, I think, at assessing, do we think we're well equipped to take on a project? And if there's something that we're like, you know what, that might just be better done by a big old agency, then we don't go there, because it's like, we just know we're kind of where we can fit and where we can actually be of service. So.
And we don't have unlimited time to pitch things. Like, we don't do massive pitch decks and massive kind of RFPs, because the agencies out there do them really well. And they'll have whole teams just dedicated to doing that and pull all the right people in and turn around like a 40-page RFP within a week, because they can and it's in their interest. And that's just not our game. And I think, coming back to Gili's point about how a lot of our networking is kind of old school. It's relationship building that trust, finding people that way, because that's how we establish trust with our clients, and kind of get that work, because we want it to be a good relationship. And we are smaller, so we don't need as much work as the agencies. Like, we want to do good work, and we want to have good lives. And we want to serve the people within our collective and the people we work with and our clients. And we're not trying to be a multi-million-dollar agency that wants unlimited growth every year and has shareholders breathing down our neck. So we want to do the work that's right for us and right for the client.
Awesome. I love that. Especially, I think people working with you guys probably value, we want to live our lives too, because work can't be everything. And speaking of, I got to let everybody go enjoy their Fridays, or at least get to work, because it is only 9:30 here in Denver. So we love to end these episodes. What is something exciting going on for you guys, whether business related, personal related? Do a little humble brag.
Gili?
Yeah, so this isn't, it's not really a brag. It's just, if you could see what's happening to my right now, we're moving on Monday. So that's big. We bought a house. We're very excited.
Congrats.
Thank you. And at the same time, I rented an art studio, because why do just one thing at one time?
Ooh, very fun. Amazing. And Georgina, what about you?
Yeah, mine is also not a humble brag. The thing that I'm super excited about at the moment is that I'm going to Puerto Rico for 2 weeks next month.
Oh, amazing.
And so that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm currently in the pre-vacation, let's get everything done phase.
Yes. The senioritis is strong for me here too. So awesome. Andy, what about you? What are you doing this weekend? I know you're in the process of moving too.
Oh.
Yeah. The internet doesn't know yet that I'm moving to Oregon next week. So I'll be splitting time in the Northwest and in Denver, but we've been taking on some pretty big national clients in our businesses, and I'm excited to expand our regional footprint. And obviously we do most of our stuff on the internet, but it'll be cool to be back on the West Coast working with a lot of the beverage companies I do and some community groups. Abby, I think we already know what you're proud of, but
I'm just
You're
proud
growing
that
a
I made it here this morning and didn't go into labor. So amazing. Well, I may be back next week. We'll see, Andy. Who
Oh, wow.
knows?
Is it kind of any day now? Is that the
Pretty
Oh, yeah.
much.
okay?
So every day I'm like, okay, I'm here. We're doing it today.
That's
So
exciting.
thank you guys so much for joining us and sharing more about Alchemy Collective. We have all the links below so people can check you guys out, follow you, reach out. And yeah, thanks for spending your Friday morning with us.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us.
Good to see you guys.
See you.
Awesome.